Welcome back, you guys, to episode 2 of the Chopping It Up podcast. I am your co-host, Chartel.
And I'm the other co-host, Ferris.
And we have a really great show here for you all today. We have brought on another lovely, beautiful guest, and we are going to let her introduce herself to you all right now.
Hello, people. My name is Crystal Timberlake. I am a healing and leadership coach, and I am so excited to be here with Chartel and Ferris on today for this episode number 2 of your podcast.
Number 2. Yes.
All
thank
right.
God.
We're doing it. Yes.
Moving
Crystal,
along.
Yes. Crystal, thank you so much for being here. We really appreciate it. And as you all know from last episode, we always start off with our blase segment. And so we, have just really been talking about Kid Cudi in this Kurt Cobain dress.
Yeah,
what?
He, for those who don't know, he was on SNL, and I think it was right after his monologue, he had a performance, right? Mm-hmm. And he said he was paying homage to Kurt Cobain, who, if people don't know who Kurt Cobain is, one, that's sad, but Kurt Cobain is an artist. He's no longer here with us, but he was part of Nirvana, which is based out of Seattle. I like their music personally, but so there's this one video, I cannot think of the name of the song, but he wore, I think it was Smells Like Teen Spirit. Have you guys heard that song?
No.
Anyway, so he was wearing this dress, and then so now Kid Cudi wanted to wear it on the show or for his performance, which was, I don't even know what to say, because I feel like nowadays, just in media, especially recently with these rappers, and I love hip hop, I love rap music, but it's like, why is it always you have to be in a dress, or why does it always have to be like something
just extra.
Extra.
Right, just extra. I feel like Kurt Cobain has made such an impact on the music world. You could have done anything else to have paid tribute to him. And, fine if this is the way Kid Cudi wanted to go. But I guess I just feel like there's you kind of have to know your audience, right? Like Kurt Cobain, I feel like that wasn't very shocking for him to show up in a dress, right? It was like, close. Oh, this is what we're doing. That's cool.
Right.
But I feel like it was shocking for Kid Cudi and his fans, right? It's like you went extreme for this tribute. You could have done any of those other steps along the way.
And I think it always comes out when it's like, Kid Cudi hasn't had an album in forever.
Gotcha.
And then so like, oh, now you want to do this because I feel like it's like, oh, well, social media is going to be talking about me, right? Mm-hmm. And it's to
make my name out there again.
Exactly. Get your name relevant. Mm-hmm. And they said all publicity is good publicity, right? Whether that's negative or positive. So that's what I think it was about. But who knows? It's just...
I'm not Kid Cudi, so...
Yeah, I definitely think that it's definitely a ploy to get attention, gain traction. Usually they do things like that when they have something big coming out. Because again, like you said, all publicity is good publicity. So who knows?
I guess we'll have to watch and see what that is.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Yeah, I don't know. That was just...
That was a big deal.
It was crazy.
Yeah.
But, what else is on your mind, Ms. Chartel?
Honestly, I want to also talk about the Lil Nas X Montero video. We didn't get to talk about that last time.
No, we did not.
And I guess I just have to say, whoa. Just whoa is all I have to say about that.
And once again, that's another thing. But he is part of the LGBT community. Yeah. So I understand some of the visual of things.
Mm-hmm. It's the Montero video.
Yeah, the Montero video.
Yeah, right.
And if you don't know who Lil Nas X is, he did the Old Town Road song, which was huge all last summer.
I liked it.
I did like it. That was a dope-ass song. Mm-hmm. And then, so Montero, I think that's his government name. Mm-hmm. And so he came out and this is me, right? So he kind of came in as, I guess it looked very average, average video. The song was dope as hell, but the video, the imagery was very whatever. Mm-hmm. But then he comes with this Montero where he is in the first part of the video, he's soaring to heaven, ascending to heaven, right? And he's singing in front of the angels and all of this kind of stuff. And you're like, okay, well, that is what it is. Whatever you want to do about that, whatever you want to feel about that. But then all of a sudden this portal opens up and the stripper pole goes all the way down to hell.
Yes.
And he's literally drops down to hell.
Yeah.
And he's twerking on Satan.
Well, but then he's twerking on the pole. I'm going to call it a stick. The pole too. He's strip dancing down into as he plunges into hell.
Yeah, that's some crazy shit.
Right? And then twerks on the devil to me looked like they were having sex. And I don't know, maybe I'm just a little bit of a prude, but I was like, this is too much for me. I didn't like it at all. I was like, stressful.
So as you guys are talking, the only thing I can think of is like you said, he came out, he was popular last year, and I have a kid, right? And they were listening to this in the preschools, right? This song, and then you come out and you're like polar opposite. Yes. Like that is crazy to me. I don't even get it. I mean, I get it. We all have freedom of expressing who we are. That's the era that we're living in right now. However, that is just a little extreme.
Yeah, now, I think so.
Not to interrupt. Now, would you let your son listen to Lil Nas X?
I mean, I liked his first song, but this is very questionable to me. Like, I don't think that this would be appropriate at all.
And have you seen the video?
No, but you guys have, you know.
Because that's what it has, you know what I mean? Because, you know, kids get on the iPad and it's kind of like, okay, well, at least they're sitting down. They're over there.
They're not bothering me.
They're not bothering me. You know, you can get some peace, right?
Right.
And then you hear the song. That's the why I keep letting people know. If you're just hearing the song, there's nothing in it.
The song is like fine.
Yeah, the song's cool.
Like listening to it.
Yeah, listening.
It's the video.
It's the video, the imagery that they're showing our children, especially young Black kids. You know, and once again, it's okay to be whoever you are in your own skin.
Definitely.
Right? Whether you're lesbian, gay, bi, trans, whatever, it doesn't matter.
Live your life.
It's just that piece, and it's like, damn, I'm sounding old over here now. But and I don't even have kids, but it's like, no, there's no way I would let my children watch that.
No, not under any circumstances that are appropriate. I mean, if you think about how much we influence children by what they see and what they hear, like that on so many levels is just wrong. Like, so no, absolutely not.
Yeah. So I just had to bring that up because I saw it and it was just like, no.
Yeah.
I don't like that at all. I think I had nightmares after it. Yes. So that was what I had to say.
And then he came out with shoes where I think he's being, well, not him, but the supplier, because they had put a Nike swoosh on there and Nike didn't approve of it.
Oh, but can't be doing that.
Apparently it's blood shoes.
Like for
because it has his blood, or quote unquote, it has his blood literally in the shoe. And he made 666 pairs.
That's the devil's number.
Of course.
Oh my God.
Yeah. And so that's what I'm saying. Like, he's roping you in with the music. Ooh. And then it turns into the shoes. So now if your little guy's like, hey.
Absolutely. That's definitely satanic. And if you think about it, the whole process, the whole scheme, right? It's building you up to a thing to get you to a place that you're going to look back and be like, how did I even get here? How did I even start? You know, but he's already captivated his audience, right? A year ago. And now here he is telling you basically the devil is Lord.
Basically, yeah. It can seem like they're like little small steps, right? So it's like, oh, that's not a big deal. Like, this song is cool, right? Oh yeah, he's got a new line of shoes. I got Jordans all the time. Let's do this, right? But then it's like you said, collectively, it's like, oh yeah, how did we get here? 666, your blood in this? What? Like, and then before you know it, full on cult.
Yeah,
full on cult.
Yes.
Well, I didn't recognize that, the number of shoes
pairs
and
of
all
shoes.
this.
Yeah, because it's limited
like
edition. You know, they want to keep it limited. I think the shoes are like $1,000 too.
See,
but
I'm not your audience, right? No, thank you. I ain't your audience.
Yeah,
not having it.
I'm trying to think what else is going on right now.
Honestly, that's just what was on my mind. Those things have like been here. We're in Minneapolis. It's sunny today.
Sunny is gorgeous.
I'm here for it. Yes, took us all the way to May, but I think that's pretty typical.
Yeah, that is pretty typical.
Yeah, so,
but it makes you enjoy the seasons because it's so damn short here.
Right,
you know
right,
what I mean?
Right.
And you being from,
I'm from Chicago, so not much different.
What side?
Southeast, so lakefront area.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, that sounds gorgeous stuff.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
But you get that lakefront breeze.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
Okay. So from Chicago, will you tell us what brought you here to Minneapolis?
Yes. So this is kind of a little bit of my story. But my mother, she is diagnosed with schizophrenia. She was diagnosed when I was a child. And at the age of 14, she could no longer take care of me. So I called my dad up, who's been here pretty much all of my life.
Okay.
And I moved here with him in high school for a little stint. And that's how I kind of got introduced to the Minnesota life. I'm not going to lie. When I first got here, total culture shock.
I bet.
I can't it was just totally different, polar opposite from being inner city Chicago. So, but I learned something. There was another side of life that was intriguing to me. And I was chasing after that since forever. So here I am, and I'm just proud to be a Minnesotan today.
Okay.
Awesome. Man, I think it's an interesting dynamic. Being in Minnesota, being Black, I think we're only like 4% of the population anyway, as is here in this state. But I mean, if you want peace of mind, for the most part, like Minnesota's quiet, quality of life is very good.
It is.
I mean, you got a bunch of lakes. There's a bunch of things to do here as well. And so, I mean, comparative to Chicago, which I do love Chicago. Well, at least downtown. I don't venture out.
I like this one part.
I just
I know this
stick in that one little area, and that's about it.
Right.
But
hilarious.
I mean, the stories that I hear outside of it, or especially on the South Side. But it's funny though, because I always see they'll say, you know, there was a shooting in South Side, right? And it's just very vague. South Side's big as hell. Like Chicago is huge. Right. That's the third largest city in the country. But let it be anywhere else where it's predominantly white, they'll say the name of the city though. Right. No, they'll say like, I don't know any city out there, so I don't want to make anything up. But like somewhere like Barrington or shooting in Barrington, right?
They'll give
which
more
lets
like
it very
demographic
localized
information.
Exactly. But,
instead of this broad sweeping shooting in Southside Chicago.
So then you're like, oh damn, I don't want to go over there.
Right.
But it's so big, like, you know, you wouldn't know. It's just like, oh, I'm gonna exclude this whole area of Chicago, and you miss a lot.
Well, they do that here too.
Yeah.
They say it's either
like North
Minneapolis, or I'll see like an East St. Paul.
Yeah.
But then any other shooting or any other incident is always like, oh, that was Bloomington. Yeah. That was, Brooklyn Center.
This part of like, Brooklyn Center or Bloomington, like, down by
or they just get the street number.
Southtown, right? So then it's like, okay, well, I just want to go on that street. But Bloomington's safe. But yeah, they've like, thinking about, how the media construes things, right? And then it's like, now there's this whole city, this whole demographic that has been deemed dangerous when it's
absolutely, it's so true
because
like you were saying, there's a South Side, there's the Southeast Side, and all the North Side and all that. But there's like little pockets of neighborhoods like Inglewood and areas like that they could, if they wanted to drill down on demographics, they could. But they tend to generalize things. However, for the most part, I mean, what you see in the tabloids is just kind of what it is, which is why I wanted to leave there in the first place. And I enjoy my little suburbia life out here in Minnesota. So
there you go.
That's that for me.
Awesome. Yes. Okay. Minnesota has, I think, a lot of like the Yahoo best places to live or whatever. They have like numerous cities on there. They're definitely from Minnesota. So it's not too terrible, especially to like raise a family and quality of life and stuff. So
yes, just mind your business.
Mind your business.
That's it.
We gotta worry about it. So we gotta worry about it. You know what? Speaking of minding your business, I want to ask you because leadership coach, you do a lot of work with like healthy relationships too, right?
Yes,
yes. I want to know, how does minding your business play a part in that?
Ooh, that was one of the biggest things that I had to get over because I've always typically been a very private, introverted person. I still am introverted, but now my life is kind of in the forefront. I don't know if you guys know, but I am also a published author. I published a memoir of my entire life.
Get out of here. Snaps for the sis. Yes.
So all of my dirty laundry is out of the bag, okay?
You want to drop the name title, girl?
Yes, it is Boundaries Over Brokenness, a memoir. So you can either pick that up on Amazon, but if you want a signed copy of that, you can get it at my website, boundariesoverbrokenness.com/shop. So really amazing book. It's very inspirational. And my whole goal for that book was to really tell my readers and the people who follow me that even though life gives you so much trials and tribulations, like me being a small town or an inner city girl with nothing, literally, I grew up in poverty, you can change your story, right? You don't have to stay in that mind frame. I remember as a 14-year-old girl, I was walking down the street. My mom was like at the peak of her latest schizophrenia break, right? And I was walking home from school after she couldn't afford to give me bus fare. And in Chicago, there's no school buses. You have to take a city bus.
Gotcha.
And my school was about 7 miles away. And it was like dead of winter, 7 feet of snow. Here I am with these Air Force Ones on. Can't even afford any boots, know? And I remember I looked across the street. I saw the neighbor. He was a drunk. I was like, man, this dude was on the porch getting drunk when I left. And he's still on the porch getting drunk when I came back. And I said to myself, man, there has to be more to life than this. So that's kind of how my story began. It's really starting with wanting a little bit more than what I saw at the surface, because when you're growing up in poverty, that becomes your reality. And my story is all about telling people that, yeah, the story may be what it is, but you can change. You have the power to change the next chapters of your life. You don't have to stay there. If you choose to want more and you choose to say by any means necessary, you can definitely achieve more. So I encourage people to pick up that book because it takes you through this journey of my entire lifehood. It really breaks things down and draws you into the story on a lot of the things that happened in my childhood, a lot of the things that I experienced in life, and ultimately brings you up to current as to how I got into the role that I am today and why I'm an advocate for women going through domestic violence and all of those things. And it's just really a beautiful thing. And again, it's just to inspire people, to let them know that, you know, the story is, but you can change the trajectory of your future if you put your mind to it and you, first of all, cannot give up on yourself. Even when everybody else is saying what you can't be and what you will be, you have the power to change who you are and what you want to be in life. So,
amen. I hear that.
Yes, I love that.
And based on what you said, and we don't have to go into it now, we can touch back at the end, but, you know, there's a lot of young kids probably growing up reading books, reading this and that, and they're like, man, I want to be a writer. I want to be able to, you know, distribute my message out to the world. And I kind of want to know, how did you go down that path? Not that you have to go, you know, very in depth, because I'm sure maybe you've covered it on your own channel. But, you know, a lot of kids don't, you know, you don't have that information, especially like you said, coming from the neighborhood that you came from. How many writers came from where you're from?
None.
Exactly. So it's you. And so people may see you on, or hear you on our podcast, or see you out doing what you're doing. And they're like, oh man, like I remember Crystal. Like, she's over here writing books now. She's a life coach. She's doing this and that. Like, that's awesome. I want to do that. I want to know how to do that, because no one in my neighborhood can tell me how. And where do I get this knowledge? Where do I get this information? So.
Absolutely. Yeah. So for me, writing a book was probably the scariest thing I ever did, because again, it was exposing my entire life and all of my dirty laundry, you know? So what it really boiled down to was, last year at the beginning of the pandemic, I decided to walk off of my full-time job and pursue full-time entrepreneurship and step down to part-time in corporate America. And
I know that's right.
Yes. So what I did was I hired a book coach, and I remember my first conversation with her. I was like, I'm not creative enough to write a story that's going to keep people drawn in. And she was like, you know what, Crystal, I think you can do it. I don't think you're giving yourself enough credit. You're pretty smart. You're intelligent. You know a lot. And really what I needed to do was really allow myself to go back into those moments. So for anybody who is writing a book, I always tell people it's important that you feel the feelings. But when you are writing a book, especially one that is about your own life, you have to draw your readers in. So you have to relive some of those experiences and tell them in vivid details by using words that are really going to paint the picture, a visual picture in people's mind. But for me, I had to start by like writing out, what are the things I absolutely want to cover? So what are some things in my life that I need to make sure that people know, right? And I think I started with like 7 things. By the time I was done writing the book, there was like 22 different areas of my book that I needed to cover. And before I was done, I was like, shoot, I got to stop writing because it was getting so long. My book was getting so long. So there definitely will be a part 2 somewhere in the near future. Right now, I'm working on another book that is really a blueprint for women who are overcoming trauma and domestic violence. And it's going to give you a step-by-step on what you need to do to really overcome domestic violence, trauma bonding, all of the things of that nature, gaslighting, so that you can really step into your true identity. I always tell people that when you end up in these traumatic situations, such as domestic violence, this was not the beginning of the journey. Because I myself am a survivor of domestic violence. And what happened was, if you look back over my life and anybody who's in this situation, you have unresolved traumas from your childhood and through life that were not dealt with. And because of that, you have fragmented parts of yourself that lead you right into the arms of someone who is going to then take advantage of those vulnerabilities within you. And then you find yourself in these situations that are life-threatening.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's hard for us to get out of them. So it was 3 times I almost lost my life in that domestic violence relationship before I finally had the courage to say, enough was enough. I choose me.
Yep.
So it's interesting. But if anybody who's writing a book wants to actually write their memoir, I would say that you have to have the courage to, one, really go deep. Don't just scratch the surface, but bring the reader into the story. Make sure you cover the things that are absolutely necessary to make sure that people are going on this journey with you. And if you need support, hire somebody. There's book coaches out here. Who knew? I hired a book coach.
I had no idea.
Yeah. So I hired a book coach, and now I'm coaching other people to help them write their books and tell their stories. So all it takes is for one person to do one thing, and then it becomes a trickle-down effect. I'm very big on, like, you need somebody who's going to help pull you up to the next level. And then at that point, you've learned something, and you can help somebody who's beneath you and pull them up to the next level as well. So I really encourage people to understand that the sky is the limit, right? You don't have to just stop because no one else did it. No one in my family was an entrepreneur. Nobody wrote books. Nobody was a coach. Nobody's airing out the dirty laundry. You know, we all grow up in these houses where what happens in this house stays in this house.
Stays in this house.
And that is not really true, right? That's how we end up with so many people who are dealing with trauma, drug and alcohol abuse, domestic violence, and all of the things. So I'm just here to tell people who may be struggling that this doesn't have to be your story. And if I can be an inspiration to any one person, then I know that my job here is done. So
appreciate it.
I love that.
Love hearing that.
Yeah. So I'm going to kind of go maybe down a deeper route. Because I hear a lot of people say, like, in regards to domestic violence relationships, just leave. I don't understand why she just won't leave. So just to hear you say it took 3 brushes with death, that sounds like, before you had the courage to leave. I guess I'm wondering if you have any words for, like, our listeners and our viewers in terms of that. I personally hate hearing that because it makes it seem like it's so easy to leave, right? And just hearing what you talked about, like the bonds and how we find ourselves in those situations, it's not easy at all. It's not easy at all.
Yes, absolutely. So first of all, back in October was Domestic Violence Awareness Month, and I did a whole series on how family members can help, because I think there's a lack of understanding of how families can help, because there's a lot of people who are just like, I told you to leave. I don't want to keep hearing about this. Blah, blah, blah. So they don't really understand the mental aspect of what's happening to a person who is going through that situation. So for me, it's 1, about education, but 2, it's more so for the person who's going through that situation. Nothing is going to make that person leave until they're ready. So many people told me to leave, like so many people, but I just couldn't. I wasn't ready. I had to be ready and say enough was enough for me. There was nothing anybody could say. In fact, the more you push, the more that person's going to run back into that person's arms, because you have to realize on the other side of that door, you have a person who is manipulating them, saying that no one loves you, nobody cares. Don't listen to them because I'm the only person you have, all of these things. And these are things that are being fed into you every single day. And just like we were talking about early in the podcast about, you know, what's that guy's name?
Lil Nas.
Yes. Who started out with this audience and then now he's basically dancing with the devil and whatnot.
Showed his true colors.
Right.
Yes.
There's a psychological, like, basically embedding, a reframing that is happening in the brain as you're going on this journey with this person. So you start to believe it because it's embedded now in your subconscious and in your conscious because you're hearing it every day.
Right.
So for one, you have to know that when you get ready, you'll be ready. What can you do as a person who is on the other side and has a family member who is going through this? Support them without judgment. Okay. Because they've already got this person in their ear telling them no one cares about you.
Right.
So the more that you drive the point home that you need to leave, the more it's going to prove true to what these facts are that they've been told this entire relationship. So the only thing you can do is just support. When that person reaches out, be there. When that person is ready to leave, take them in if you can, or give them a situation that gives them a place to escape. But if they choose to go back, understand that this is a part of the process, right? So just love them through it and set boundaries, of course, for yourself, because it can be emotionally taxing on you as the person watching your loved one go through this. But it's definitely something that takes a strong mind and a strong will. So for me, I always tell people that I never, even though me and my abuser had an on and off relationship for about 3 years, I never would tell anybody what I was going through because I was not sure if I was ready to be done.
Gotcha.
It took me months to even say that I was done because I knew my pattern. I would go back. I would be done for 3 months and then I go back. Right. So it took me months to even say that or that we were done. And here's why. Because again, you have people who are judging you from the inside or the outside looking in, and then people get tired of hearing it.
Yeah.
Right. So I went through that journey alone, which is why you guys may hear me say, I'm talking to the people who may be suffering in silence. Gotcha. Because I was that person who was suffering in silence because I was afraid of what the outside world would say about me for going back, staying, keep dealing with it, 3 times. How many times is it going to take? Are you going to die before you get out?
And not to interrupt, but well, one, that sounds, because addiction is just like that too. When you have family members that have an addiction and stuff like that. But would it also be like the fear of the unknown? Like, what is on the other side if I leave? Like, especially if that person is financially keeping you
absolutely
afloat, exactly.
Because now it's like, well, damn, that's my money too.
Right.
Or that's my shelter. That's my livelihood. Yeah. And so if you're walking out from that, plus, just the fear of what could be on the other side.
Right.
Absolutely. And a lot of people stay because of that financial stability. Like, that wasn't my story, but that's so many people's story because that person is the breadwinner and leaving, they don't know what it looks like. So it's the fear of what is on the other side of that, like you said. So sometimes I tell people that it's one thing to be afraid of not knowing what could happen negatively, but there is a real thing called a fear of success. Like sometimes we get so comfortable in these situations that the thought of seeing something else is also just equally as scary as knowing what to anticipate in that journey as well. So it's tricky on both sides of the spectrum, but that was a really good question.
Yeah, that goes with entrepreneurship too. A lot of people are scared to step out. Plus you have those people like, I wouldn't do that. Well, that's you. You're self-projecting. You're saying that you can't do it, but don't put that on me. But yeah, then you'd have that doubt of like, maybe they are right. Or I don't know what's going to be on the other side. So
yes,
I feel that
for
sure.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Gosh. Oh, thank you for sharing part of that. Gosh.
Yes.
So you left. You decided to be done officially. How did that impact how you had relationships from then on? And when I say relationships, I mean romantic ones, but also like friendships, right? Colleagues, like how did you make sure you surrounded yourself with people that made you feel safe?
Yes. So first of all, there's an isolation that happens when you're in this relationship, right? So when I left, I had no friends. I had no one. In fact, nobody even knew that I was going through what I was going through, not even my family. So it was almost like starting over, but not starting over because there was this image of me that everything was okay, especially to my family. And there was a hidden truth, which is another reason why I wanted to write the book. A lot of people didn't even know I went through what I went through until the book was published. So there was this hidden truth. So it was this heaviness of not only did I go through this experience, but now I'm out and I'm still dealing with the consequences of what I've gone through. And ultimately, it took me 10 years to heal because I went through it alone, which kind of brings me to why I do what I do today, because it doesn't need to take that long, right? So when I think about coming out on the other side of it, Luther and I, who's my husband, by the way.
Shout out Luther.
Right? Amazing Luther. We had been friends on and off because we dated back in high school when I was here for a short stint. He was one of the people who kind of knew what had happened. And it was because he was a casualty in a part of that domestic violence situation.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So luckily, he didn't get involved physically, but he did have to deal with some verbal backlash from the whole thing. And it was just like, shoot, now my troubles are like trickling down to everybody around me. So he was very supportive, and him and I were gonna date again before the last time I almost lost my life. Okay. So this person went back to jail, and then all of a sudden he was out.
Gotcha.
So that put a drastic halt to what Luther and I had going on. And but anywho, I was able to reconnect with him, and he definitely was understanding. He's pretty easygoing guy, but it was a troublesome situation because you're still dealing with the baggage, the brokenness of yourself. So this is the part where I like to tell women that even though you get out of the situation, you survive it, there's still emotional things that can be long lasting. So when you're in a toxic relationship, even if you weren't the toxic person, when you come out of that relationship, you're toxic.
Yeah, gotcha.
Okay, so that's one thing you have to own.
Yeah, people don't like that word.
Right.
They don't like that.
Absolutely. And there's like this unrealistic expectation and undue pressure that happened as Luther and I got back into a serious relationship because, again, I had been dealing with a person who really wanted to know my whereabouts and check-ins and all of these things like all the time.
You wanted to know all of it.
Right. And then you get with this other person and this is your reality. Like in your mind, this has become normal because you've accepted this behavior. So then I'm bringing this baggage into this new relationship. Yeah. And then I had to really unprogram myself from all of these things. So it was really hard to actually get myself to a place where I was a healthy, functioning being. Not only did I have the issues from my abusive relationship, but I had daddy issues.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
So there was all these things, when you have daddy issues, sometimes you project that on your partner, right? And there was a point in my relationship where I remember I was in therapy and I had to tell my husband, I had to come home and apologize to him. And I said, I'm sorry, because I wanted you to be my husband, my friend, my daddy, all of these things, these titles that don't even belong to him. But think about the pressure of trying to play all these roles to a person. Right. And all you want to do is love them. Right. Right. And here they are expecting all of these things from you. So for me, it was a lot of therapy. It was a lot of self-help, coaching, all of the things that I had to go through to really rid myself of this toxicity and reprogram my brain because my brain was thinking one way because when you're in it, it becomes normal.
For sure.
And when you realize that this isn't normal, you have to now
undo it all.
Yes. Yes. So that's kind of the process that I had to go through. And it was 10 years. And finally, I started with this hashtag journey to self-discovery.
Okay.
Because it was right after I had my son, who is now 5.5.
Oh, cute.
He's a cute little guy. I met him.
Yeah. So I realized that my life is not my own anymore, right? So I had been doing all these things to really recover myself, but now there was somebody else who was looking up to me, somebody else who was repeating everything I did. So even those unhealthy, nonverbal things that I was carrying in myself, they started to come out in my child.
Gotcha.
So that put me even into another even higher drive to really want to be a better version of myself. So there's levels to this healing thing, but I tell people all the time, just enjoy the process because there's this rediscovering of yourself that is happening and you really begin to fall in love with you. I tell people that if you don't love you, then no one else can love you.
No one else can.
Really. And it's an energy attracting an energy, right? So brokenness attracts brokenness and love attracts love. So when I was able to really go deep within myself and really start to love myself unapologetically, flaws and all of the trauma and everything, realizing that life is happening for me, not to me, and really just embracing the fullness of everything that God has called and created me to be, then I was able to see myself differently and see my husband differently. And there was like a rebirthing of our marriage. We are celebrating 9 years in September.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
That's awesome.
Yes. And there was a phase in my marriage where I wanted out. But I'm so glad that I was able to, first of all, be patient with myself through the journey, be patient with him through the journey. And really, there was a rebirthing that happened. And it was a love that never was there, even in the beginning. So It's such a beautiful thing to watch it on the other side. But really, it's the self-reflection that gives you the ability to really bask in the joy of the process. So I tell people that your process is there to take you through and get you to your purpose. But your purpose is not determined by your process. Because sometimes people think, I'm so broken. Right. There's no way I can do this. But that's not true. Your process is preparing you. It's the assignment that is on the other side of that process. Right. So if you're patient with yourself, you'll get there and you'll know that it was all worth it. So it's like a puzzle, putting the pieces together.
Yes.
So hearing that,
dropping the gems,
I know, dropping them dimes.
yes,
I like that. So, but so that's your perspective, right? Mm-hmm. What you went through. I'm curious to know, and I'm sure there's other men out there that are like, what if I'm dating or going to date someone who's quote unquote broken, right? Mm-hmm. Or like, what are the steps that you witnessed your husband do where you're like, okay, like I know from being in the position that I was in that my husband did X, Y, and Z, you know, whether that's he listened or, you know, he was asking questions, he gave me my space, you know, like what are things that a man can do? Because, you know, sometimes we ain't the smartest. So we need cues. We're literal. Like, what do you see?
Yes. So a man who is embracing a woman who may be fragmented, is the word I like to use, is first of all, patience, communication, understanding, right? So with Luther, he was patient, right? He's always been a man of few words. So it wasn't really what he said, but it was what he did, right? And it was the commitment to it, regardless of what it was. You know, I'm not saying that our marriage was perfect, obviously, if I wanted out at one point. But knowing that there is a commitment to stay and work this thing out through the good times and the bad times is what's going to prevail over all other things. I always tell people to lead with love. And when you truly are leading with love, that's understanding that people are flawed, right? Me, him, everybody. So it took a lot of patience, a lot of communication, which Luther and I had to grow through together. Both of us had our own communication issues. But once we started to get to know each other in a more intimate way, and I'm not talking about sexual, I'm talking about mentally, emotionally, all of those things that that make us who we are, then we were more patient with one another. And patience is the biggest thing. When you're dealing with somebody who's been through traumas, right? You have to understand that, first of all, the person who's been through the trauma needs to be okay with explaining triggers because triggers happen. And then the person who's on the receiving end, the man in this case, has to be okay with understanding that it's not me, right?
Yes, right.
Okay. It's not me, but what can I do to support her through this? And being patient with that and understanding, because there was a time in my life that I couldn't be around men.
Gotcha.
So the fact that I'm sitting here next to Ferris today is like, okay, praise God for, you know, for healing, right? There was a time that I couldn't be around men, and my husband knew that if we were in the mall or something, we were walking around or walking through, like there was an anxiety that came over me that literally made me go blank. Like I couldn't say anything. I couldn't do anything. I couldn't make eye contact. I couldn't have a conversation with men because of these traumas, the rape, the sexual assault, the abuse, all of the things, the daddy issues. My brothers were physically and mentally and emotionally abusive to me. So every man in my life up until a point was abusive to me in some way, shape, or form. So there was this paralyzing factor within me when it came to men. And my husband, he's a man himself. So that didn't exclude him either. Right. So there were certain things in our relationship where even I would be paralyzed to him, right? And there would be this wall that would go up. So being patient and understanding and really just knowing, and if we would be in a movie and there would be a scene or whatever of maybe domestic violence or rape or just something very intense happening with a woman and man, he would just be like, are you okay? Do you want to leave? Do you want to keep watching it? So it was those little things that he would do for me that supported me through my journey until I got to a point where I could be in the same room as a man and not think about, okay, where's the exit? Where, you know, if he does something to me, how am I going to protect myself? Because that used to be my thought process all the time.
Shout out to my man Luther. He over here.
Yes, Luther. Okay. Snaps for Luther.
Overcoming a lot of like trauma.
Snaps for Luther.
Yes.
We're here for it.
So it's a beautiful thing.
Yes. Oh, I'm glad you found a partner that can love you in the way you need to be loved and can support you in that.
Yes. So, thank you.
Good deal. All right, I'm gonna bring it up. I watched one of your videos.
Okay.
I want our viewers to know who may not have seen your videos to kind of hear your perspective on Derrick Jaxn.
Oh, goodness.
So for our viewers and our listeners who may not know, Derrick Jaxn is a clown. And he, really made his, I'm probably going to be echoing what you said in your video, but made his platform on giving women advice, right? And how I perceived it is he was telling them how to be better to get the men that they wanted. And I don't think I didn't like that at all. So I already wrote him off. I didn't like it. But he grew his following. You know, women are, you know, really wanting to be partnered. And, you know, so they were willing to eat all of this stuff up. And then it came out that he cheated on his beautiful Black queen.
Look, but it's not even that, though. It seems more like narcissism because he's not saying for you just to get this is how I viewed it when I watch his videos. There's those certain type of men who, when they post those videos, they're like, oh, you just have to better yourself so you can get someone like me. That's how I always heard it.
Gotcha.
Where he put himself on this pedestal and was like, oh, like, he did X, Y, and Z. Okay. Right. Because, you know, girls are like, oh, he's an attractive guy, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah, he's chocolate black man. He cute.
So that's how I always heard it.
Okay. So not just to get a good man, to get a good man like me.
Yeah, that's how I heard it.
Okay, I don't want no good man like you, so you cheating on your wife.
Right. So this Derrick Jackson situation, oh my God. It's crazy. And you are absolutely right. Narcissism at its core. Absolutely. So when you're dealing with a narcissist, first of all, it's all about them. It's about their image. It's about their status. It's about, you know, to them, they're invincible. They are the gods of their lives, right?
We serve them.
Absolutely. So he used his entire platform to manipulate women and use it as a way to have sexual relationships with women. Even when he was through the whole course of his marriage, this was happening. So my advice to women is, first of all, you have to take an introspective look at yourself. What is it that you're lacking that makes it okay for you to accept this, right? This is a process that I went through myself, right? What is it that is in you that makes this all your worth in your eyes, okay? And number two is I educate women all the time on identifying the red flags, right?
Yes.
So when a person is always talking about themselves, and if you know that this man is married, why are you meeting him for lunch?
That's the question I want to know.
Right.
We not friends. Where your wife at?
Right. Like, is she going to be coming?
Right.
Okay, that's great. You know, that would be my first question. But it's almost as if he created, like he said, this imagery of himself that said that he was the status quo. Like, you want to get a man like me. And when you hear people say that over and over again, you begin to fall in love with the image that they've created themselves to be. So there's a manipulation that is happening on a very subconscious level, which makes women really feel captivated. They build a relationship with you in their head. And then they get in these situations and they're just like, well, I guess it isn't all that bad because now everybody is about money, fame, and fortune. So how can I grow from this? What do I get out of this, right? That's what it's all about. And there's nothing wrong with that except when you are one of the ones in the situation who's on the receiving end of the manipulation and you know what is happening is wrong. Then I have to ask, what are your core values? Do you even value yourself? He definitely doesn't value his relationship with his wife. And you know this. Like, the one girl, I was listening to her interview and she's like, yeah, I was all up in his little, you know, suite, wherever he had, that was down the road from his house.
Right.
And she's like, yeah, I was in the bedroom and I was in the background of the video, you know, when he was recording it. And it's just like
thinking that was cool. Yeah. Like, oh, he liked me. Look what he doing like this. And it's like, sis.
It's crazy.
Right. He got a whole wife. You in the background. You're not even a guest, girl. He not even acknowledging you.
Yes. And one chick was like, well, that video that he recorded on such and such a date was outside of my house. And you're proud of this?
Right. And you're proud of it?
Damn, he did always look like he was about to go inside and go, you know, have fun.
Yeah.
And to us viewers, it wouldn't look anything, I wouldn't imagine it would be anything other than his home, right? Anything other than his wife there. But yeah, he got it out here tricking all of us. All of us.
But then I have to ask though, and I never blame the wife, okay? So hear me when I say this, but I have to ask, his wife has to know, like, she knows where they live. She knows what the outside of their house look like. So are you not watching his videos?
Right.
Like, and I was studying her more than I was studying him. I study people. Like, I can read your body language. I can pretty much read your mind before you even open your mouth.
Love it.
That's just something that I've been in tune with for a long time. But as I was watching her in these videos, it's like, oh my gosh, she's hurting. You can tell that she's broken. I even went so far as to go through her Instagram. And I don't know if you guys have been through her Instagram, but she would have these long posts about how she was jealous hearted and how she felt like she was never good enough and how she would get her hair done and her makeup done to try to look like something that she had saw, and how she was on her own healing journey. So when we talk about brokenness, right? She was definitely broken in this marriage from the get-go. And he took advantage of that because she wasn't going to stand up for herself. It was obvious. And even when all of this stuff broke, she still didn't stand up for herself. She was just like, I support my husband and he knows that he's wrong and we're going to work on this.
Bonnet and all.
It sounded so scripted though. Like he was like trying to move her hand up. So she was reading the note.
Yeah, basically had her hand clenched. Sis showed up in a bonnet. Like,
right?
I'm like, girl, do you support this man?
But when you study people who have been in narcissistic relationships, they go from this glowing, beautiful person to looking exactly how she looks.
Exhausted.
They show up in public and they're not beautiful. Why? Because that man is telling them, I don't want anybody to see your butt. You're nothing about your figure. So they make you wear baggy clothes.
Yep.
This is a part of the cycle. So when I was looking at her, I'm looking at her from the standpoint of, I've been where you are. And I've stood in a courtroom and lied under oath to say that I'm fine. I'm not in danger. I'm not afraid of this man. And she did it in front of the whole world. Yeah. So I understand. I just wish that she'll realize that she's worth so much more. And those babies, right? Yeah. I always think about the children because again, they're following behind us. They're mimicking what we do. And
do they have kids?
Yeah, they do. I think it's two kids.
Know that?
Yeah, I don't know.
They have 2 kids together. So it's just a sad situation. Yeah, he's a narcissist, and usually narcissists never believe anything is wrong with them.
Of course not.
And I actually discovered, like, after that video aired, that they were a part of this church because, they were talking about how God is delivering them and all of the things. And there's these videos of this church that they attend, and the pastor is like spitting on them, saying, "Devil, get out of you." It was just...
He probably directed Lil Nas X's video.
Probably, because it's exactly what you guys were talking about. It's crazy. And then here's Derek Jackson in the video of this church ceremony thing. He was, I'm going to be a little bit explicit here.
Do it, girl.
But the pastor was like spitting and spraying water at this woman's vagina, saying, "Get these devils out of you," and all of the things. And I'm just like, what in the world is happening?
Where is happening at?
I'm telling you.
I just kind of wanted to see the visual.
Yeah.
Get out of here.
It's all on YouTube, you guys.
Look.
And you can see Derek Jackson right there in the background.
And I think ultimately this comes down to stop idolizing people on social media, please.
Exactly.
Because you got Derek Jackson. Have you heard of Kevin Samuels?
I hate him too.
You gotta watch this too.
I think he's worse. They're both terrible.
See, at least Kevin is real.
People need to go back to work.
Quote unquote real, air quotes, real, right? Because he's more or less trying to, like his thing, he has this one where he's talking about, like, where do you rate yourself, right? Like, because he says he's a millionaire. So he's like, all right, you're trying to get millionaires, right? Where do you rate yourself, right? All right, do you have children? Do you have, and he goes down and he starts knocking pegs off, or he starts adding pegs for you, right?
Well, so you get knocked on pegs if you have kids or something?
Look, he also did it for a guy too.
I'm not saying like just for the women. I'm just saying like that already is harmful language.
Look, he had this one dude on there where he was like, all right, how tall are you? I think he said like 5'8". He's like, all right, well, or he's like, how tall are you? He said 5'8". He's like, where do you rate yourself? I think I'm like a 7. He's like, okay. He's like, how much money do you make a year? I think he said like $20,000.
He couldn't have said that.
No, he's literally said like $20,000. And then he was like, how much do you weigh? And the dude said, I don't know, like 290.
Okay.
And he's like, dude, you're short, you're fat. He's like, you don't make any money. And he's like, you're over here trying to attract like beautiful women. That doesn't make sense. So he's like, that's how he goes about it. But I don't think he's worse than Derek. I think Derek is he's strictly tries to feed off of the people that watch his videos. He tries to portray himself as something that he's not, because at home, clearly none of that's going on. Right?
That's
and
true.
Kevin is just Kevin. Like he's an asshole. Either way.
Okay.
That's just him.
Yeah. But he shows up that way.
He shows up that way.
Okay.
He doesn't change who he is. He just does him.
I just wish people would go to therapy. Like, if you want to work on yourself, go to therapy. Stop, like you said, idolizing these social media people. They don't know nothing.
Yeah, you don't
they
know
social media.
You don't know what degrees or what
they got going on. Giving you all
what
this
knowledge they have, what education they have behind what they're saying.
You
other
don't
than
any of that.
They're just they have followers. Okay,
right. And I don't think they don't have a vested interest in you. They just want followers. They don't care if it works out for you or if it doesn't. Right. When you were talking about earlier about investing in yourself, right? Like hiring a book coach, invest in yourself in terms of therapy, right? You get what you pay for, right? So if you out here getting this free social media advice, you gonna reap those repercussions. Like invest in yourself, find a therapist if that's your real goal. And I hate that hashtag relationship goals because it's like your relationship, not my relationship, not my sister's relationship. Like, no, I need to make my flags aren't your flags and aren't someone else's flags, right? So I'm someone that is like, if a guy has kids, I might say, so your flag for me, we got to figure it out. Someone else, that may be a green flag for them. Right. That may be a red flag for them, right? So you can't build a relationship off of other people's expectations or what other people say. But that's what these social media people are doing. They're giving these general guidelines that apply to no one. And you're not getting to the core, right? You're not figuring out what is making you tick, what's holding you back, what traumas you have. Invest in yourself, people. Stop playing these games.
Absolutely. It's all about a photograph. Like relationship goals has boiled down to a cute photograph on social media.
In the Maldives. The Maldives, relationship goals. Look, they got
the Maldives.
Yeah. Well, that's what people say. There'll be a couple in the Maldives. And then they'll be like, oh my gosh, relationship goals.
I can afford the mall. The Mall of America.
Hilarious.
My selfies are at. What y'all talking about? Maldives.
But that's what
bougie
they say.
Ass.
And then it's a whole filter in the background. They sitting at home on their couch, mad at each other. They ain't even in the same room.
The Oculus on,
right. That's so funny. But I also wanted to say too, in terms of that crazy church story you told, that's why everybody came pray for me. I don't know what y'all do. Keep your prayers. I don't want to. I'll pray for myself.
Right. It's crazy. I mean,
about to get me.
Myself, I'm obviously very outwardly speak about my faith, my religion. I mean, I'm a Christian. I'm a daughter of a king. I know that. But you're right. I mean, because being a Christian has kind of become a trend. Right. So everybody who says, thank God ain't really thanking the same God you're thinking. They're not praying to the same God that you're praying to. So you have to be very discernful, of who you are associating yourself with, who you're attaching yourself with, because not everybody wants to know your story so that they can help you. Right. Some people want to know your story so that they can gossip about you. So they can be nosy.
They can tear you down. They know your flaws. They know your weaknesses.
Right. They think of your story as the latest tea, the latest gossip. Right. And so you have to be very discernful and really build that relationship with God for yourself, first of all. Because once you get into the intimacy of your relationship with God, you start to figure out who you are, and you also figure out who the people are to you. And like you were saying, when we talk about goals and red flags and green flags and yellow flags, it all boils down to your own values, right? So a person who's been through domestic violence isn't going to have the same flags as a person who has not, right? Because there's a difference there. There's some things that you're just like, okay, I want to make sure that this never happens again. So you have to become one with self first. And getting to know who you are, figuring out what your passions are, figuring out, what makes you tick, like you said. So it's a journey with self that a lot of people forfeit. I mean, I feel like we're in an age of social media and people think that who they show up as on social media is who they are in real life. Like, that's not it.
Yeah, that's not
it. No. I always tell people I laugh because I get on camera, I look good. I was like, but in real life, you see me in the grocery store, I'm probably going to have on some leggings with some boots and a baggy t-shirt, maybe. Man,
we just living. No, I feel that. I feel that all the time. Yeah. Yes. Crystal, this was lovely.
Yes,
definitely.
Yes. Any last questions you have, Ferris? I feel like I kind of dominated, but
no, you're
any
good.
questions you have? I feel like I
asked my little questions as they came up. Yeah. I didn't even, there's a couple questions that I didn't even ask you that I sent you. But
do you want to do the bonus question? Just kind of as a send off.
Oh, of course. I'm always willing to talk about some of these people.
We got one good question for before our interview is over with Miss Crystal. So
essentially the question was, do you think women like Stacey Dash, Meghan Markle, and Candace Owens are quote unquote broken or have some sort of resentment towards Black men, the Black community, all of the above?
Yeah. So I've been pondering on this question ever since, and because I always like to I like to be careful. I choose my words wisely is what my clients will say, oh, Lord, when Crystal's saying that. I like to be strategical in my responses. But what I will say regarding that is that whenever there is tension and traumas and things of that nature, it skews the vision and the perspective that people have on people, right? So this is no exclusion to them, is what I'm saying. So when you think about our population and what people have to say about our Black men, first of all, if you ask me, there's nothing that a Black man can do wrong. Why? Because I love my Black kings. I do. But not everybody feels that way. And we don't know everybody's story. So before I can put out an opinion on whether or not I feel they're broken, I don't know the totality of their story. I don't know what they've been through. And they may be speaking from a lens of brokenness. Because when you're broken, hurt people, right?
That's true.
And that's the truth. So when I talk about leading with love, when I come back to that, you have to understand that people are only going to speak upon things from the perspective in which is their reality. But their reality may not be your reality. And it's all predetermined by their journey, their story. And if there's some healing that needs to happen, then that should happen. But that person has to own that first.
Yep.
So they may not say the right things all the time. They may have prejudice, and all of those things. But it's coming from a broken obscurity of a view that they have towards a person or a group of people. So I just want to leave it at that because, like I said, I'm very careful about what I say because I don't ever want to paint people in a light. I'm very big on like giving everybody grace.
Yeah.
Because you just never know. You never know what's happening behind that voice, behind that person, behind that closed door.
That's
so
true.
That's that.
I'm gonna try to be more like you, sis, because y'all know how I feel about these women out here. Candace Owens is playing hater. I guess I just feel like when people make she's the worst. I guess I feel like, and I say that because she's made such negative comments and such sweeping. It's hard for me,
especially when you
to give you grace.
She goes out of her way though
to do that, and so I want a heart as big as yours because I'm looking at her like, girl, I can't wait for you to be somewhere else.
And I was really thinking the same thing when Crystal was talking. I was like, wow, I need to be like you. I need to grow internally because
I need to get a bigger heart because I'm ready to. Anywho, so but that's her, right? But she's awful. I think Stacey Dash is just poor thing, just is moving through life trying to grasp a foundation so she can go somewhere too. She can come back to the Black side. I think she need a little more education. I think in terms of Meghan Markle, I think because of her status, Black people want her to do all things Black. I think they want her to not be pro-Black, saying she wasn't, but I think they want her now to use her platform to elevate us all up. And I think that's something unfair that we do with Black people, like in like celebrity positions or I can't think of the word right now, but like visible positions, right? Like I think someone we may not have noticed before. I'll be honest, I knew she played on Suits, but yes. And so like I knew she played on Suits, but I never watched the show. And now, she's got this royal title. I think they dropped it, but she had it. She always had it to me. But now I think it's like, oh wait, look at her. Her mama Black. All right, this our Black queen. Like now sis, bring us up. And it's like, but did you know her like years ago?
I never even heard of her before the Piers Morgan thing. Actually, that was before.
So I didn't even know about that.
Harry. Yeah, because Piers Morgan.
I heard about it, but
was the guy.
I didn't know it then.
He was a host on.
Was right.
Some random show, right?
Yeah, in the UK.
News network, correct. And then he took her out on a date, thinking that he was going to spoil her with the money. But that's what Meghan apparently has been getting at is like she attracts dudes with money.
Yeah.
And then so she got Harry, right? He looks better than you. Right. So you can't be mad. And then now he just, the Piers guy dragged her through the mud.
Yeah, he got his feelings hurt.
Oh, exactly.
He got his feelings hurt. So talk about the privilege and the audacity.
And then complaining, or what's the skin going to look like? How black?
Exactly. And he got mad when he got fired.
Right. So
look
crazy.
Right. So yeah, so I think that. So nope, Candace is gone. She's the worst. She's made all these terrible statements. She can go do something else. Stacey, yeah, she just needs a little more education. I think she just, oh sis. But yeah, I think people have put a lot on Megan. I think she just wants to live, you know. I think she found someone.
She deserves that.
Right. I think she found someone she fell in love with. You know, they've got kids. I think she just wants to like, I think she's always just wanted to like live. I don't know her, but I mean, she hasn't ever like, at least from what I know from like celebrity news and stuff, has never like been out there like that, right? I think she's led like a pretty quiet life, and now has been thrust in and out. I think people expect all of these things on her, and I think she's always just like, I just want to live. So I think that's something unfair we can do as a culture is like, oh, we get like Barack Obama, like Kamala. Okay, great. Y'all made it. Now bring us all up. And it's like, what were y'all doing like before? How can you lift your own self up, right? In your own like community? Why are you waiting like for this person? And then getting mad at them, wanting to cancel them when they don't use their platform each and every time to say something or bring awareness to something else. It's their platform.
And I do think that's a...
So
go ahead.
I was going to say, we're living in a time of cancel culture where people are definitely doing that. And when we make it to a certain status, I don't know what it is about the Black community where they feel like, oh, you made it, I should come with you.
Exactly.
But there is this true saying that everybody can't go.
Everybody can't go. I ain't got room in my car.
Can't go.
I ain't got room in my car. Ain't enough room for y'all.
Yeah.
And then they get mad at you, though. I think about people that like win the lottery or just hit it. Then it's people you ain't never talked to.
Never heard of.
Coming out asking for help with this, help with that. Get mad when you put up boundaries and say no. We should have you on for another conversation about boundaries.
Yes, girl.
Definitely.
Yes.
Key.
Yes.
All of these things. And it's like, I don't know you. Like, you're going to be gone until it's something that interests you. And now you want to come back around.
Right.
Yep.
But kind of echo what you were saying, though, about the, you know, you got to bring your own self up first, right? You got to bring your own community up, right? And I feel like that's another reason why we're chopping it up right now. That's the reason why we wanted to start this podcast. That's why we had you on. You know, that's why we try to get the information out there about entrepreneurship and financial literacy and a lot of these other things that we want to, because if you listen to us, we want you to get something out of each episode, one, and then two, you know, maybe we lead you in the direction to be that change that you're looking for.
Right.
Yes.
And so you can't always rely on someone else.
Nope.
Yes.
And it's not fair.
Right.
No, it's not.
What a great conversation. We can talk to you all day. I will round us out with our last segment of Exhausted, and then we'll ask for social media information afterwards. I guess I'll start us off. I am exhausted with all of these stupid TikTok videos. I want people to go back to work. I want them to stop making all these videos because not everything deserves to be on TikTok. Specifically, I'm talking about old dude that did a whole video, dipped in ranch. Don't like it. For me, that was like the epitome. I was like, this is it. People go back to work. Get vaccinated. Go back to work. Get off the stupid internet. I'm sick of TikTok. So that's me. I'm exhausted about that. Ferris.
Man, I'm exhausted about, for the last 5 years, even a little bit longer, obviously, but for me, it seems like the last 5 years that just demasculating the heterosexual male. You know, I get it. You know, you have gay men, heterosexual or homosexual men, you have trans men, but stop trying to tear down what a man is. Like, I'm tired of that. Like, that's what has me exhausted. It's like, there's certain things that I live by. There's certain things that I like. There's certain things that make me who I am or make a man who a heterosexual man is. So,
but they want to reshape it all.
Exactly. Right? And, you know, I feel like they're trying to move ahead, like skip over heterosexual individuals. And I feel like the same for women. Now, all of a sudden you have, you know, trans women can use the same restrooms and stuff like that. And it's like, no, heterosexual women should be allowed to do as they are. You know, like it shouldn't, the other privileges that are not, I don't know. I just feel like there's just certain things that it's just kind of getting out of hand. It's like we need more time to process it. And I feel like things are just kind of just trying to click ahead way too damn quick.
Right. And the impositions, like, anywho, that's
that's got me exhausted.
Yes, no, I feel you. What about you, Miss Crystal?
Yeah, I have so many things that I'm like exhausted over. So I'm gonna probably go ahead and say that I'm exhausted with the whole cancel culture. Like, man, I literally just cannot. Every time I see the newest hashtag on cancel culture, so we talked about Derrick Jackson, which is relevant. I mean, we should cancel him. Yeah. But then the Kirk Franklin and all of the things.
Because he cursed out his son or something, right? He sounded like he was out of pocket. And Kirk Franklin said, don't let this Christian background fool you.
Right.
I didn't even hear about that.
Oh, yeah.
So what happened?
His son went crazy, yelled at him, cursed about something. I don't know the details, but people were mad because Kirk Franklin cussed his ass back out.
Yes, he did.
But he deserved it, though.
Right.
And some people were like, you're a Christian man. You shouldn't speak to your son that way, da-da-da-da-da. Other people were like, you were right because your son was out of pocket and you were right for putting him back in his place.
Right. It's called chastising.
I'm of that group.
And my whole thing is, how many of these people out here claiming to be Christian and they speaking just like that on an everyday basis?
Everyday.
So I think because he was in the spotlight, he just kind of caught the spotlight. Yeah. And I'm just sick of the whole cancel culture. If everybody would just have their own way of thinking, we are all entitled to our own opinion, but I feel like the cancel culture is more like, oh, they're doing this, so I'm going to do this too. And that is exhausting to me. I cannot stand people who cannot think for themselves. And that's my biggest pet peeve.
Yes. That's a lot of people. Yeah. I agree. All right. Well, thank you again, Crystal, for coming on, gracing us with your gems and your presence.
Man, we definitely appreciate it.
Yes.
Thanks for having me.
For sure.
Please drop your social media tags, your book again, please. How can people find you and support you?
Yes, absolutely. So you guys can find me on Instagram at Crystal J Timberlake. And that's my Instagram. For Facebook, it's just at Crystal Timberlake, or my business page is at Boundaries Over Brokenness. As we talked about earlier, I have a book, Boundaries Over Brokenness, a memoir that you can find either on Amazon. But if you want to get a signed copy, you can purchase it at boundariesoverbrokenness.com/shop. I'm excited about that. I'm working on some new projects. I am working to come out with a new book about healing from trauma and abuse, the whole start to finish, from identifying red flags to learning how to communicate. So there's going to be nothing missed in between. And I'm also partnering with my dear friend and partner, Alex Moffat. We're doing a She Leads Like Jesus project. So on May 16th, we are having a authentic She Leader masterclass. So we are excited about that. If you are interested in attending that, you can register at idlegacy.com/she-leads. It's going to be amazing. We're going to be talking about what it takes to be an authentic leader. We know that authenticity is the gold standard for leadership, and it's what draws people in, captivates them, and makes them feel like they are a part of that vision as well. Yes. We are shedding the imposter syndrome and stepping out in our true authentic being. Myself being in leadership for a long time, many years, I know how important it is to resonate with your people. So we are doing that. So if that's something you're interested in, like I said, it's idlegacy.com/she-leads. So.
Yay. Awesome. Okay.
And you can find me on Instagram at I_am_Ferris. That's Farris. You can catch me on Facebook, Ferris Space Glover or Ferris Glover. You can catch me also on Facebook under the Chopping It Up podcast, along with Miss Chartel here. And for the podcast as well, which we just got, would be YouTube.
Yes.
Which is Chopping It Up Official Podcast. So you can catch us on there. We'll start having episodes popping up on there. So definitely like to have you. And then Ms. Chartel, where can they find you at?
Yes. All right. Well, yes, of course, our IG page, Chopping It Up, CHOPPN, It Up. Official on Instagram. On Instagram, I personally am Chartelite, CHARTELITE. And of course, our Chopping It Up Facebook page is Chopping It Up Official as well. And we look forward to seeing you guys, hearing from y'all. As always, please send us topics, things you all want to know about. You can send us comments, topics, let us know how we're doing. We like to say we're the people's podcast. So please let us know. We couldn't do it without you all. So yeah, we're accessible.
Oh, and if you have any submissions, once again, that'd be art, music, just anything, send it over to our email. So that's chopping it up official at gmail.com.
Yep, for sure. We definitely want to highlight our young artists out there and entrepreneurs. So please send it. And until next time, bye you guys.